That was pretty good, right? Like, I don't really have to say much after that. Thank you for that introduction. So yeah, my name is Jeff Staple. I'm the founder and creative director of 3 different companies, basically. One is Staple. It's actually a menswear collection. He didn't even mention that part, but I founded a clothing line. I founded the clothing line 20 years ago. This is the 20th anniversary of our brand. Yeah, 1997 nice. Started it. Yep. And also Staple Design Studio, which is a creative agency, as you mentioned, and also a retail store called WorkSpace, which was founded in the Lower East Side of New York. That is 15 years, so it's retail, design, and fashion. The brand's mark is a pigeon, so like this. You might have seen it before. If you see a pigeon on a shirt, that's probably ours, or we're suing them. So yeah, so I want to tell you a little bit about how we got to the 20th year, because 20 years at anything is really freaking hard. You know, like a friend of mine has a laundromat for 20 years, and it's hard as fuck. And he was like, I don't know how you built a brand on 20 years catering to like youth culture and millennials and the most fickle customers ever. How do you keep doing it for 20 years, right? And we always have this conversation. So I'm gonna take you back a little bit. I am of Chinese descent. My mom and dad came from Guangzhou and Hong Kong, respectively. And my mom was 7 months pregnant when she flew from China to New York City to have me. There was no way she was gonna have me in red China with a Chinese passport. So she's like, this kid's getting a blue passport, I don't care what it takes, right? So I was born here. They settled in New Jersey, for better or for worse. The Garden State, and also the armpit of America. So. So yeah, I grew up in New Jersey in a very, very, let's just say, non-colored neighborhood. I'll put it to you this way. My high school had 1,600 students in it. 1,600 students, 3 Asians. Just to give you a little bit of color and perspective on my high school, right? So all throughout, basically from the age of 1 to 17, racism was like normal. Like it was just so everyday, and like ridicule and racial slurs were just like, yeah, I'm just a chink, I guess. Like I'm just the Walkman every day. And it was like, it wasn't even hurtful because I only knew it from birth, you know? Yeah, it was crazy. So when I graduated and I eventually went to New York University, I was like, damn, there's like other people that look like me here. And why isn't anyone like saying these words to me anymore? Like, why do they just call me by my first name? It's so weird. But anyway, back up a little bit. Yeah, so high school was really interesting. You know, I ended up in the creative arts, but I didn't really do anything creative when I was growing up because my parents, who are immigrants, you know, it was not an option to grow up and do something in the creative arts. Like that wasn't a job option whatsoever. You were either gonna be a doctor or you were gonna be a lawyer. And if you were kind of stupid, you could be an accountant. But those were the 3 options you have in an Asian household. That's all you have. So I didn't like any of them. I wasn't really a very good student, you know. I was into writing, and I wanted to be a writer, but they were like, nope, you can't make money being a writer, so no, you can't be a writer. I was like, damn, okay. I was like, well, how about journalism? And they're like, oh, Connie Chung, I like her. Okay, cool, you could be a journalist, right? So I was like, all right, bet, I'm going to NYU, right? I'm going to NYU for journalism. So I go to NYU for journalism for a few years, and I was like, this really isn't for me. Like, I really didn't like New York University. You know what it was about NYU? It's like, I shouldn't badmouth NYU because we're right in their backyard, but NYU, and I think most colleges are like this, like, I didn't study at all or do any homework for the entire year. And then the week of finals, I would pull all-nighters, study my ass off, and I'd get like a B-. You know, and I'm like, this is weird. I'm like paying $40,000 a year, burying myself in debt, and I'm not really learning anything. It's just memorization and then like, you know, regurgitating that. So incidentally, at the time, I was taking an internship at this place that needed data entry, and I was like, okay, I could do data entry. So I did data entry at this place, and it happened to be a graphic design firm. And I'm like, graphic design firm, what's this? I'm like looking around at what people are doing, and they're just like, they got pretty pictures on their screen and stuff, and I was like, damn, these people make money just like making pretty pictures and drawing and stuff. This is what I want to do. So as they're teaching me like all of the things that I have to learn at this graphic design studio, I was like, okay, I want to go back to NYU and I want to take some of these classes. And at that time, NYU did not offer these classes. So I was like, all right, I'm going to leave NYU. I'm going to tell my Asian parents who flew here to have me, to have the American dream. I'm going to tell them that I am dropping out of New York University. And they were so livid mad. And they're like, all right, so you're going to drop out of NYU. What are you going to do now? I'm going to go to art school. Which is like, we're disowning you now, basically. So like, all right, you want to go to art school? You're on your own. You pay for it yourself, in any which way you want to do it, fine, but you do it yourself. So I went to Parsons School of Design. And at Parsons, it was a game changer for my life. It really set me on a different course. At Parsons, I took a class called Silk Screening Lab, which is basically where you learn how to silk screen on paper and make posters, right? And the thing is, like, making posters was cool, but when you live in New York City, you basically are living like in a shoebox, right? So there's not really the occasion for you to put up your artwork and have friends over and have wine and be like, look at the art I've created in my silkscreen class. Like, no, not in the shoebox that I was living in. So I was like, excuse me, teacher, instead of printing on paper, I would actually like to print on a T-shirt. And she was like, well, why? I'm like, well, because like they're both cotton, but T-shirts, like when you take the subway, when you take the bus, when you walk on the streets, what you wear on your chest says so much about who you are. Even if your shirt is blank, it says something about who you are. And I felt like that was such a powerful medium. That form of cotton was so powerful. And she's like, that's awesome. No. I was like, well, what? I mean, why not? I'm paying tuition, I'm paying for the lab and the supplies, just cause. And like for me, it's like if you can justify a reason why you're telling me no, it's fine. But when you say just cause, I'm like, nah, I can't accept that. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna leave the windows unlocked at the silkscreen lab, and then I'll just come into school at night and break in and use the silkscreen lab at night. So me and one friend, we would buy blank shirts on 14th Street and University. We would fill them up, put them in pillowcases, and we'd come over, we'd go past. There'd be a security guard at the front door, and we'd be like, yeah, we're just gonna do some homework. And then we would go over, we'd toss it into the window, we'd climb in through the window, lock the windows, lock the door, and it would be a Chinese sweatshop in the silkscreen lab all night long. And we would just print shirts, we would just print them up. And you know what, like, I had no intention of starting a brand at that time. I was merely trying to express myself using cotton and giving them to my friends. And if I made 20 shirts, I'd give them to my friends, and I'd have 20 ambassadors just walking around. And that, to me, was when I really discovered, like, the power of fashion. So fast forward March 7th, 1997. March 7th is my birthday. Nice! Fishies! So March 7th, 1997, it's my birthday. It's a big day, right? My girl is, getting her hair done. I just drop her off at the bar, at the hair salon, and I'm like, I'm gonna walk around and do some shopping, and I'm wearing one of the shirts that I printed at school. So I walk into a store on Lafayette. It's an old store called 555 Soul. I don't know if you guys know of it, but I walk in, and the guy's like, yo, that's a dope shirt. Where'd you get that? I'm like, I made it. He's like, He's like, if you make 12, we could sell them here. I was like, that's a thought. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to break into school again and make these 12 shirts though, So we did that, broke into school, made more shirts, brought them over, and he was like, what's the name of your brand? I was like, fuck. I was like, damn, all right, Staple. And he's like, okay, cool, why Staple? I was like, this is in 97, and if any of you guys are old enough, you remember like back in the 90s, the big brands were like FUBU, Peli Peli, Sean John, Rockaware. These were brands where like the logo was like this big on your shirt. And I was like, I love hip hop, but I don't love that clothing. I want to create something that represents like the raw essential elements of hip hop culture. And that's what the name Staple came from, using that definition. So I brought the 12 shirts over, and they sold out in a week. And he's like, let me get 24. I'm like, damn, now I got to break into school again. All right, so I keep doing this. I keep breaking into school, fulfilling these orders, right? One night I get a call, and it's this dude from Japan. And he's like, hello. I like a t-shirt. I want to buy, Japan. I I was like, whoa, cool. This dude wants to buy a T-shirt from Japan. I was like, all right, cool. I'll sell you one. I was like, well, how many do you want? I want 1,000. And I'm like, how am I gonna break into school with 1,000 shirts, you know? So I decided at that night, all right, this 1,000 shirt order, I gotta figure this out. And in order to finance this and do this, I need to leave school because school will always be here. So now I gotta call mom and dad. Yo, you know art school? Yo, this T-shirt thing's working out right now. And they were like, don't talk to us ever again. So literally, for 10 years, my mom and dad had no idea what I was doing. At one point, we designed a Nike that is the #2 greatest shoe of all time, behind the Air Jordan 11, according to Sneaker News. That shoe on eBay right now is worth about $8,000 if you could get your hands on a pair. And they still don't know what I do. It wasn't until a Chinese newspaper wrote an article on me. The World Journal did like a 1/4 page article, and they're like, oh, we're so proud of you, son. I was like, great, thanks. But anyway, the moral of the story, I'm out of time right now, but the moral of the story here is, if they don't let you in, find the back door. That's the moral of the story. Thank you. I got one more moral of the story. You know that saying, like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness? I say don't ask for either. Don't ask for shit. Just show what you are worth with what you make. Don't ask for nothing. I don't need anyone's approval. I just show you what I do, and you make your judgment based off of that. I don't talk. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can we give it up for Jeff Staple again?
Hello.
Love it, man.
Hello.
Oh, we got another question, Jeff.
Right. Sorry.
Gotta come up, brother.
A late
Gotta
question.
come up.
Thank you so much. I just had a quick question for anyone aspiring, I guess, to go into business, period, but particularly the fashion industry in New York, because we're in New York and there's so many different resources. If you're coming from not having a lot of resources, you didn't go to fashion school, what would you suggest in terms of square one?
This is the best time for you. This is the best time for you. You know why? Because I have a friend. He's kind of a friend. He's like a friend of me because I hate him. He makes clothes in Photoshop and Illustrator. Okay, so he does a mock-up. And I'm not saying you should do this exact same thing. I'm just giving you like one idea. But this guy makes shirts in Photoshop and Illustrator. He takes a screenshot and then he Instagrams them and he shows them to people. And then he says like, oh, how many people would buy this? And then 30 people say, I'd buy it. Then he goes like, okay, I'm gonna make 30 pieces. And then he starts there. So he has no risk and no inventory. Whereas when I started, like social media wasn't around yet. So I had to blind guess. Like when I made those 24 shirts, I didn't know if they would sell. I didn't know if the store would be like, hey, take these back. These aren't selling, you know? But this guy is like pre-selling shirts because of whether it's Kickstarter, Indiegogo, like Etsy, like there's now garments on demand. You could like make stuff on demand. So like you could literally have a shirt up. There's a thing called Amazon merch that Amazon just made. But like you could basically put a shirt up. When they get an order, they make the thing for you. They ship it to the customer and they just PayPal you the money. And it's like you don't even touch it, which to me is like a little bit blasphemous from like fashion design standpoint because you're not really making or designing. Yeah, it's all like, smoke and mirrors. But right now, it's like in this generation, it's like the perfect time to start a brand because you could start it with no risk.
That's awesome. That's good. Fantastic. That's good stuff. Love it. Love it. Can we give it up for Jeff again, please?